I had spent so long inside her version of the truth that I almost forgot my own. But that message, that single clue, gave me the courage to look back and finally see what had really been happening. In part one, the whispers spread, the room turned against me, and her lies almost became my reality. But one message changed everything. And now I'm about to follow the trail back to the truth. I walked into the HR meeting the next morning, prepared for anything, except what actually happened. Two HR officers sat at the table. A polite silence filled the room. They asked routine questions, checked in on my workload, asked about recent interactions. They never mentioned Mirren by name. It told me one thing. She had approached them already, but not directly. She had planted impressions that allowed them to form their own conclusions. When the meeting ended, they thanked me for my transparency and said they would review information from all parties. All parties. The phrase stayed in my mind as I walked out. Mirren was not acting alone. She had gathered allies without them even knowing it. People believed her because she never accused. She only expressed concern. Concern is easier to trust than anger. Back at my desk, she smiled as I approached. "You made it back," she said softly. "These meetings can be intense." "They were routine," I said. She nodded, unconvinced. "I told them you are doing your best," she said. "I hope that helps." It did not help. It confirmed my suspicion. She was building a case, not a loud one, a quiet one. At lunch, I avoided the break room and sat in a small conference room instead. I needed a plan. I needed clarity. I opened the project folder she and I had worked on earlier in the week. Something caught my eye. A timestamp. A strange one. One of the documents had been edited at 1:52 in the morning. The changes made were sloppy enough to damage the entire file. I clicked version history. The edits were made under Mirren's login. I took a slow breath. Another document showed edits at 11:40 p.m. Also her login. She had been altering my work when no one was watching. She created the errors she later hinted were mine. I checked more files. Every inconsistency she noticed had been touched by her. Every missing piece of data, every mislabeled item, every weakness she helped the team identify. The pattern hit me hard. She was staging failure, not by attacking me, by reshaping my work in the shadows. I printed out the logs quietly, one page at a time, making sure no one noticed. I saved the originals to a secure folder. I captured screenshots. I backed up messages. By the time I finished, I had enough proof to show intent. I also had something else. A question. Why me? I returned to my desk and sat down, my mind racing. Mirren typed calmly beside me. Her expression stayed soft. Her posture stayed relaxed. The contrast made the truth even colder. She knew exactly what she was doing. Later that afternoon, I went to check the corridor camera near the meeting rooms. A colleague from security owed me a favor from a past project. He let me view footage from the previous day. At first, I saw nothing unusual. People walking, chairs being moved, normal office noise. Then the footage jumped to Mirren. She stood alone in the corridor. She fixed her hair. She glanced both ways. Then she closed her eyes and practiced crying. Not for long, just a few seconds. She wiped the corner of her eye. She sighed deeply, preparing her expression. Then she opened the conference room door and stepped inside. My stomach tightened. I scrubbed backward in the footage. I searched earlier times. I found something else. She had hovered near my desk the night before the meeting. She checked my monitor when I stepped away. She inserted a flash drive into her laptop. She copied something. I could not see what. But I knew the pattern now. She rehearsed emotions before she displayed them. She created evidence before she reported it. She studied my habits before she used them. This was not an overwhelmed intern. This was someone who understood manipulation like muscle memory. I printed the screenshots quietly. I saved the footage clip to my drive with careful encryption. When I returned to my desk, Mirren looked up and smiled with warm sincerity. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Everything is fine." She watched me for one extra second, assessing, measuring. Then she turned back to her screen. But something had shifted inside me. Until now, I had thought I was trapped in her story. Now I knew I was studying hers. As I prepared to leave, a notification flashed at the bottom of my screen. A message from HR. Please attend a formal hearing tomorrow at 9 a.m. regarding allegations raised. Allegations, plural. Mirren had made her move, and now I had to make mine. The next morning, I walked into the office with the footage loaded, the files organized, and the printed timestamps in a folder under my arm. I did not feel nervous. I felt ready. There is a difference. People looked up when I entered, not out of curiosity, out of expectation. Mirren had been busy the last few days, and everyone knew something was boiling. Mirren arrived 15 minutes later, wearing a powder blue blouse and a soft, fragile expression. She greeted the room with a quiet hello. Her eyes slid to me. She held the gaze for a second too long, then she looked away. At 9:45, HR sent the meeting reminder. At 9:50, Rowan stepped out of his office to call us. At 9:55, Mirren took the single seat closest to the HR manager, a position she chose on purpose, close enough to seem vulnerable, far enough to seem threatened. I sat directly across from her. The HR manager, a calm woman named Selby, placed her pen on the table. All right, she said, let us begin. Mirren inhaled shakily. I just want to say, she began, this has been very stressful for me. I want peace in this workplace. I never wanted conflict. Her voice trembled. Not too much, just enough. Selby nodded sympathetically. Tell us what happened. Mirren folded her hands. Lennox has been unpredictable, she said. He raises his voice. He gets angry. I have been afraid to work near him. I know he is under pressure, but I feel unsafe. The words landed softly in the room, but they landed with weight. Selby turned to me. Your response. I placed the folder gently on the table. I have not raised my voice at anyone, I said, and I have not been unpredictable. What I have been is patient and observant. Mirren looked confused. Not real confusion. Performance confusion, I continued. There are facts I want to present. Selby nodded. Go ahead. I opened the folder and slid the printed timestamps to the center of the table. These show edits made to my reports outside office hours. Edits I did not make. Edits that removed data and created errors. Selby scanned the sheets, frowning. Who accessed these files? She asked. I turned my laptop so everyone could see the screen. Version history shows access from Mirren's login. Mirren gasped softly. That is impossible, she said quickly. I never touched his files. Why would I? I did not respond. I clicked play on the first clip. The footage showed Mirren standing in corridor 3, practicing her distressed expressions before the meeting where she accused me of yelling. Silence filled the room. Real silence. Mirren blinked rapidly. That looks bad, she whispered. But I can explain. Selby raised a hand. Let us continue first. I opened the second clip. It showed her placing sticky notes on her desk, the ones implying fear, minutes before someone walked by to accidentally notice them. I added the email logs next, then screenshots, then timesheets from her previous employer confirming behavioral incidents. Everything fresh, everything new. Nothing from Chapter 7 repeated. The room shifted, not slowly, immediately. Mirren's breathing changed. Her shoulders tightened. Her face emptied of performance. Selby leaned back in her chair. This is serious, she said. Very serious. Mirren swallowed. I only wanted to be valued, she said. People never value interns. I was trying to protect my place here. She looked at me directly, eyes wide. I never meant to hurt you, she said. You were just in the way. There it was, the truth behind the softness. Cold, precise. Selby closed the folder. Mirren, she said, you need to step out. We will review this further. Mirren stood up slowly. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Lennox, you do not understand what you have done. She walked out with quiet steps that felt heavier than they sounded. The door closed behind her. Selby turned to me. Thank you for bringing this forward, she said. You handled this with restraint. We will follow the appropriate procedures. I nodded once. As I walked back to my desk, the office watched me with a different expression. Not confusion, not concern. Recognition. They had finally seen her. Not the smile, not the sweetness. The truth. Less than an hour later, HR sent an internal message. Mirren Vale is suspended pending further review. And for the first time since she walked into our office, the room felt normal again. The office felt unreal the morning after the HR hearing. People moved quietly as if afraid to disturb something fragile in the air. I arrived early, not to prove a point, not to show strength. I simply wanted space to breathe before the rest of the building filled. My desk looked exactly as I left it, orderly, steady, mine. I sat down and opened my laptop. Before I could log in fully, Rowan walked over. "Can we talk in the small conference room?" he said. His voice held an unfamiliar tone. Not concern, not suspicion, responsibility. I stood and followed him. Inside, he closed the door and looked at me with a steady expression. "I reviewed the footage twice," he said, "and I read the reports from her last employer. HR received them this morning." I waited. "It is clear you were targeted," he said. "You were patient through all of it. More patient than most people could manage." I nodded once. "Thank you," I said. He shook his head. "No, we should have seen the signs, and we should have listened sooner." Silence filled the small room, but it was not uncomfortable. It felt like air returning to a space that had been held too tightly. Then Rowan said something that stayed with me for a long time. "You did everything right. You stayed steady. That is rare." I exhaled slowly. When I returned to my desk, HR called me upstairs. The head of HR, Miss Calder, greeted me with a nod. "Lena," she said, "this will be quick. We want to close this properly." She handed me a document. It was a formal statement clearing my record of every accusation Mirren made. It stated that no behavioral concerns existed. It stated that all allegations were false and supported by manipulated evidence. It stated that my conduct had been professional and consistent. She continued, "We also filed a policy infraction report regarding Mirren. Her access has been revoked. Security accompanied her while she packed." I listened without reacting. Then Ms. Calder added, "She requested to speak with you. We denied the request." Good. I did not want her last words. I did not need them. On my way back down, I passed the lobby. She was there. Mirren Vale. A small suitcase beside her. A cardboard box on her lap. Her hair pulled back. Her eyes red. She looked up and saw me. She stood. "Lennox," she whispered. "Please." I stopped several feet away. Her voice trembled. "I never meant to hurt you," she said quietly. "I just needed to prove myself. Everything kept slipping out of my hands. You had what I wanted, stability, respect. I thought if I controlled the story, I could get ahead. I did not think it would go this far." I watched her carefully. Every word sounded honest, but honesty at the end of destruction is not the same as truth. She stepped toward me. "I am sorry," she said. "I really am." For a moment, I studied the person who had reshaped my entire office in a matter of days. A person who smiled while dismantling people. A person who mistook manipulation for strength. A person who had never been told no in a way that made her face herself. I did not raise my voice. I did not accuse her. I did not ask why. I said three simple words. "It ends here." Her face broke. She nodded. Then she picked up her suitcase and walked out of the building. No dramatic exit, no final plea. Just a quiet departure of someone who finally met a boundary she could not move. When I returned to my floor, the change was immediate. People greeted me with real relief, real apology, real gratitude. Jonah approached me first. "I am sorry," he said. "I believed what I heard. I should not have." I nodded. "It is done," I said. Sarah from procurement hugged me tightly. "We missed your calm," she said. Calm. That word returned to me again and again throughout the day. My calm. The thing Mirren tried to twist into weakness. By late afternoon, Rowan gathered the team. He spoke plainly. "We failed to protect one of our strongest members," he said. "We let a stranger turn us against someone we trust. That will not happen again." People looked at me with warm eyes, not pity, respect. The office breathed differently after that. Lighter. Steady, balanced again. At 5:30, I shut down my computer and stepped outside into the cool evening. The sky had a quiet clarity to it, the kind that shows up after a storm ends. I walked toward the train station feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Not triumphant, not vengeful, just steady again. As I waited on the platform, I understood something that settled deep inside me. Mirren did not create chaos. She revealed chaos people hide behind smiles. She did not destroy me. She exposed the strength I did not know I carried. And she taught me one final truth. Danger rarely enters with noise. It arrives with charm, with softness, with gentle interest. But the same way chaos arrives quietly, peace returns quietly too. It returns when truth stands firm. It returns when lies collapse under their own weight. It returns when you choose not to carry what was never yours. I boarded the train, sat by the window, and let the calm settle. My life was mine again, and nothing felt fragile anymore. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it resonated with you or reminded you of something you've experienced, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you'd like more stories like this, about truth, betrayal, and quiet strength, you can subscribe to the channel and stay with us for the next one. Thank you for listening.